A 16-year-old among 8 people killed just this week. We put a face to Baltimore's ruthless violence. Plus, city police struggle to hire more officers.
It's going to be a very difficult and painful legacy for law enforcement in Baltimore to get beyond.
We question how they're going to keep you safe with their forces spread thin.
This is about how can we hold people accountable? How can we deal with quality of life crimes?
City State's Attorney Ivan Bates is looking to enforce low-level crime. His plan to put these offenders on the right path in hopes of reducing violence. A local resident billed nearly $2,000 for water. New tonight, the resolution he finally got, and we question why the city still refuses to accept responsibility. The next weather maker moves in this weekend. Meteorologist Amy Aronson is timing out when the rain arrives and when cooler temperatures return.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson. Fox 45 News continues to press city leaders on Baltimore's relentless violence. 16 people have been killed this month, more than a murder a day. In fact, 8 people were killed in the past 6 days alone, including a 25-year-old after midnight in East Baltimore. And we're learning more about a 16-year-old shot and killed Monday near Mondawmin Mall. Fox 45's Keith Daniels has been following that story. He joins us live now with an update. Keith?
Well, Kai, a 16-year-old boy is the focus of the city's crime crisis at this hour. And tonight, a closer look. We're learning more tonight about the 16-year-old boy shot and killed this week. Police say his name is Cameron Murphy, a teen, school age. But a spokesperson with Baltimore City Public Schools says Murphy has not been enrolled in city schools since August 2022. School officials did not say what grade he was or what school he attended. Murphy gunned down Monday on Longwood Street near Mondawmin Avenue. A neighbor heard gunshots, then saw 2 males running by her home, another one walking behind, believed to be Murphy, who spoke.
Yes, one said, I've been hit. He had his hand here. So I don't know, he was walking up, so it had to be on this side. Yes, he had his hand here.
Police responded to a hospital where they say Murphy was a walk-in shooting victim. He was pronounced dead later. Murphy is among the 8 people killed this week. Baltimore police say there have been 78 homicides so far in the city this year, compared to 95 at this time last year. That's nearly an 18% decrease between this point in time in 2022 versus 2023. The numbers, police say, trending in the right direction, but still on par with previous years when over 300 residents were killed. And for some residents,
nowadays, these kids got more guns than the adults that can legally get them.
That decrease in the number of homicides is little comfort, especially when more and more gun violence across the city involves juveniles as victims and suspects. Some people in the city this week, in front of our mic, stepped up and spoke out. One resident aimed at parents as a source of the problem.
You're failing your child, and you're doing a disservice to the citizens of Baltimore City as a result of you failing your child. Because your child feel like they can go out here and do what they want with no consequences.
The frustration over gun crimes also spilling into City Hall this week, where Councilman Robert Stokes called on all area law enforcement agencies to work together to help curb the violence.
I'm a council person, but I live in the city. I want to be safe like everybody else.
Well, investigators are asking anyone with information about Murphy's murder to call police. Remember, you can remain anonymous and could be eligible for a reward by calling Metro Crime Stoppers. Well, live tonight, Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. Baltimore police are sharing this picture of a person possibly connected to a man's death at the Shot Tower subway station this week. Now, police aren't calling him a suspect or a person of interest, but they do need your help to find him and talk with him. 28-year-old Christopher Foster was pushed off the platform and onto the subway track on Wednesday. He was electrocuted when he hit the 3rd rail. Now his mother is demanding accountability for his death.
was so angry that someone played God with my son's life. I want to see that person be caught and be accountable for his actions. I want to see him pay for what he did.
Take one more look. This is the person police are trying to find. We've shared this image on our website, foxbaltimore.com, and also on social media platforms, which is @FoxBaltimore. Well, crime remains the top concern in the city. The number of police officers, though, is shrinking. And despite recruitment and retention efforts, the department is nearly 500 officers short. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor spoke to law enforcement experts about the mass exodus.
As crime continues to touch nearly every corner of the city. On Wednesday, a federal judge overseeing police reform in Baltimore calling the city's officer shortage a crisis. Despite increasing salaries to the highest in the state and boosting a slew of benefits, the department's vacancies dropping from 400 officers short to nearly 500 officers short over the last 8 months.
We can make sure we have good recruitment incentives, good retention incentives. And we have those. What we have to do is also make sure we have good working conditions.
According to Commissioner Michael Harrison, that includes retrofitting police stations, enhancing crime-fighting technologies, and putting officers in new cars. All improvements former Deputy Commissioner Jason Johnson says miss the mark.
I think the biggest thing that's plaguing the recruitment effort in Baltimore is really the actions of the public officials themselves, failing to support the men and women of law enforcement.
According to Johnson, from the actions of city to state leaders, those pledging to protect our streets feel under attack. Last year, Maryland lawmakers stripping away officers' Bill of Rights, setting stricter rules for how police are investigated and disciplined, a measure then Governor Larry Hogan vetoed, but was eventually overruled. And although she's no longer in office, Johnson says many officers still scarred by the 8-year tenure of former city state's attorney Marilyn Mosby, who reached national prominence for pursuing criminal charges against police.
It's going to be a very difficult and painful legacy for law enforcement in Baltimore to get beyond.
They are not pro-police.
Law enforcement expert Maury Richards agrees, saying the support
Amy, thank you. Maryland Attorney General Anthony Brown disagrees with the statement from the Baltimore Archdiocese about that 500-page report on child sex abuse. The Archdiocese claims the AG's office asked them to keep 10 names of surviving members accused of abuse redacted and that the court ordered it. Brown says their statement is misleading. He says the Archdiocese is free to release those redacted names at any time. Brown says the Archdiocese has had access to the full report since November, and this comes less than 2 weeks after Brown's scathing comments about cover-ups within the Baltimore Archdiocese.
What was consistent throughout the stories was the absolute authority and power these abusive priests and the church leadership held over survivors, their families, and their communities. It's also a history of repeated cover-up of that abuse by the Catholic Church hierarchy.
The full AG's report, including more than 600 counts of abuse, is available at foxbaltimore.com. 3 members of a family in Shadyside are rushed to the hospital after being shocked by a power line. Anne Arundel County firefighters tell Fox 45 News a ladder came in contact with high voltage wires outside of a home near the intersection of Shadyside and Shady Rest roads. Maryland State Police and U.S. Park Police helicopters flew the victims to area hospitals. Their conditions aren't known at this time, but we'll try and have an update for you. Still ahead on Fox 45 News at 10 o'clock tonight, Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates unveils a strategy to combat crime. How his office will handle low-level crimes in hopes of preventing offenders from escalating into something more violent. Sky-high water bills in Baltimore despite a pair of plumbers saying there was no leak at a Baltimore home. Why DPW is refusing to take responsibility. And the Pentagon leak. Why did a young National Guardsman, according to authorities, have access to top-secret intel? And why did it take months for the military to find out? We'll have the latest on the investigation.
Right now, I think we're heading the right direction. Would I want to give it an A? I think we're A-, and I have a lot of text messages from a number of individuals that, quote unquote, were in the game to say, oh, wow, you changed the game.
Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates is optimistic about Baltimore's future at last night's town hall. He has a plan called the citation docket. It's a new way to hold criminals accountable. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost moderated that town hall and explains Bates' new tool.
This new citation docket is a way to enforce these lower-level offenses. It's a significant change from the policies of Marilyn Mosby and her administration. And new City State's Attorney Ivan Bates says it's a way to ensure there is accountability while providing the necessary resources to people in need. Baltimore's top prosecutor, Ivan Bates, out with a new plan to address quality of life concerns in the city, bringing people in for lower-level offenses to get help.
This is about how can we hold people accountable? How can we deal with quality of life crimes? We're not trying to have mass incarceration. We're not trying to give people records.
Trespassing, loitering, open container violations, all things Bates will be enforcing, utilizing the new district court citation docket. Drug treatment and mental health services will be offered.
Let's also be clear. These individuals who we give the services to, once, maybe twice, if you decide you just don't want the services, you just can't go back and do what you want to do, because eventually we're going to have to prosecute you.
Bates' plan now contrasts Marilyn Mosby's plans when she stopped prosecuting these crimes, making her pandemic-era prosecution policies permanent in March 2021. Doubling down on her move, claiming allowing quality-of-life crimes to go unchecked did not lead to higher crime.
I say follow the data, right? And so what we've been able to prove in the past year is that crime has decreased.
Critics of Mosby's plan have long argued those smaller crimes are directly linked to bigger offenses, often more violent crimes. Bates and new Baltimore City Sheriff Sam Cogan argue early intervention with some of these offenders could help change their path, but that often means interactions with law enforcement.
There are reasons why people are committing some of these crimes, and that's addiction and mental health. And one of the ways to get them treatment is if they're engaged constitutionally by a law enforcement officer and brought in front of the court. And some things like mental health court, that's exactly how you have to access that.
And that sentiment shared by Baltimore County State's Attorney Scott Schellenberger, pushing back on Mosby's plans when she rolled it out.
When you come to court, every judge asks, what is your underlying problem? And particularly in the area of drugs, they're going to ask if you have obviously an addiction problem. And then they're going to try to get you the help that you need to cure that problem.
The goal of the citation docket, getting involved with people when they break the law, providing the right services and giving them the chance to move forward with their life. But if those resources are not utilized, Bates makes it clear there will be accountability, all to ensure people are safe in their own communities. Bates says he's looking to have this new citation docket operational later this spring. In Baltimore, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Now, if you'd like to watch our town hall in full, you can do that this weekend. It will air on the CW tomorrow at 5 o'clock and right here on Fox 45 at 3:30 Sunday afternoon. You can also watch it anytime on our website, foxbaltimore.com. New tonight, former Secretary of State under President Trump, Mike Pompeo, has announced he will not run for the White House. During a Fox News interview today, he said Trump's presence in the race had nothing to do with his decision. He joins former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan as one of the few high-profile Republicans once thought as potential 2024 candidates to rule out a run for the White House. Jack Teixeira of Massachusetts Air National Guard makes his first court appearance today after he was arrested following a leak of classified military documents on social media. There's still questions about how someone with such a low rank could have such high-level security access. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has the story.
When authorities arrested 21-year-old Jack Teixeira for posting highly classified documents online, his age and rank surprising many.
How does a 21-year-old have the clearance for documents like he got?
Teixeira, a low-ranking member of the Massachusetts Air National Guard, did IT work requiring top-secret security clearance due to the nature of the material on the system. Is it usual for someone of Teixeira's age and rank to have access to this type of sensitive information?
What's not unusual, or what is usual, is for a young man, 18 or older, who's in the military to have a secret security clearance or higher.
Cully Stimson spent decades as a JAG officer. He says the leak highlights major issues.
Even if he did have a need to know that, how could he print it, fold it up, and walk out of the building without anyone knowing it and what security protocols are in place? Because you would have thought that after Snowden and after Chelsea Manning, we would have ratcheted down on these types of accesses.
Pentagon officials say they are reviewing and planning to tighten their classified intelligence policies. The FBI now receiving some criticism for the time it took to arrest Teixeira, since the public learned his identity from journalists first. National security expert Joshua School, who served 21 years in the FBI, says the feds likely knew who was responsible very quickly.
The media is not responsible for retaining evidence and then proving beyond a reasonable doubt that the person did that. Further, the FBI is never going to try and compete with the media, nor should they.
Teixeira will likely face additional charges along with the two announced in court on Friday. If convicted, he could face decades in prison. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
After a dry stretch this week, we actually really need the rain, and we are going to get some of it over the next couple of days. Timing not ideal with it being the weekend, but we are dodging some scattered showers. Even some storms come tomorrow. The good news is most of Sunday's actually dry. It's Sunday night and Monday that next weather maker is actually moving through. And after that, we're dry again. But I'm also tracking some temperature changes. I'll let you know exactly what they are in just about 15 minutes on Fox 45 News at 10.
U.S. Attorney Merrick Garland says he's doing everything in his power to bring an American journalist home from a Russian prison. The Biden administration is designating Evan Gershkovich as wrongfully detained. He was arrested in Russia late last month and charged with espionage. Garland says his arrest underscores the dangers journalists see on foreign soil.
This kind of case just shows how important freedom of the press is in all countries around the world. In our country, but even more so in countries that are making it increasingly difficult and dangerous for the free press to operate and to report what is actually happening in that country.
A top Russian diplomat says Moscow might be willing to discuss a prisoner swap, but not until after legal proceedings have taken place first. And taking a look right now at the Fox box on the top left, Russian citizens could soon find out if they've been drafted into the military electronically. Until now, the notice had to be delivered in person, and Russians have been staying away from their listed addresses. On the top right, protests on the streets of France as the legislature in that country approves President Emmanuel Macron's plan to raise the national retirement age from 62 to 64. Macron says the program will run out of money if the age isn't changed. On the bottom left, a Florida teacher is on leave right now after allegedly making comments about wanting to shoot students for underperforming. The teacher quickly clarified she would never harm a student, and a report notes she may have been distressed. On the bottom right, the man who made bomb threats and barricaded himself inside our Sinclair sister station in Kalamazoo, Michigan, appeared in court today. He faces 20 years in prison, but there are concerns about his mental stability after he appeared confused when a judge read his charges. Be sure to sign up for News on the Go. Go to our website, foxbaltimore.com, and click on Mobile Alert Sign Up under the Station tab. You can also download the Fox 45 app for your smartphone. Search WBFF in your app store. Ahead at 10:30, critical officer shortages in Baltimore. The concern that criminals are taking advantage of it. Man, that's my favorite place. That's the Autobahn in Jessup, Howard County. This is Racing for a Childhood Cancer Cure, a beautiful celebration of life tonight in Jessup, and a reminder that the fight isn't finished. We're following three big stories at 10:30. A man racks up hundreds of dollars on his water bill in Baltimore City, and two private plumbers say it's not his fault. Why the city is refusing to take responsibility. A fan with the heart of a champion, one Towson superfan's powerful connection with her favorite team in tonight's Maryland Moment. And a major staffing concern within the Baltimore Police Department. The alarming numbers and why incentives just don't seem to be working. We begin there. During this week's consent decree hearing, Baltimore police revealed a shortage of nearly 500 officers. Fox 45's Vincent Hill explains the challenges that could present and how criminals might be taking advantage of it.
Based on the population of Baltimore, that equals about one officer for every 266 people. Now, a law enforcement expert says that's not enough cops to effectively fight crime. As lives are lost almost daily in Baltimore.
My homegirl's son just got killed, 21 years old.
And drug deals happen in the middle of the day.
This right here is a normal day. Everybody's selling drugs.
Baltimore residents sounding the alarm on the city's police shortage.
No, they need more. They need more.
A sentiment shared by former Baltimore Mayor Sheila Dixon at Thursday night's town hall meeting hosted by Fox 45.
Police officers are supposed to be touching the community every 15, 20 minutes or so.
The Baltimore City Sheriff offering to help by putting his deputies on patrol.
We have a small law enforcement agency that's been untapped in the city, which is the sheriff's office.
But the former mayor says it's not enough to protect and serve the people of Baltimore.
Calling 911, sometimes you get put on hold.
So, how do Baltimore police effectively fight crime with a department that's 489 officers short?
And how can we police effectively? I don't think we're policing at our best when you are short-staffed.
Law enforcement analyst Joe Ested says they can't.
You're doing exactly what you can with the amount of personnel that they're giving you.
Ested says the shortage has led to officers waiting for backup as residents wait for help.
If it means I have to wait on the outskirts for my arriving officer to get there to 15, 20 minutes later, that's what you got to do.
Something Baltimore residents say they've seen firsthand.
They wait till they call back up and then some of them come out because I done seen it happen.
As police response times seem to be going up.
I'm being told now it's anywhere from 20 to 30 to 40 minutes.
Ested says crime in Baltimore will only do the same.
The criminal element is not stupid to the fact that it's taking us longer to respond. So with that said, they have the advantage of continually doing their criminal acts.
And despite the highest pay for police in the state and a sign-on bonus, Baltimore police still struggle to bring on officers. In Baltimore, Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
A person was stabbed this afternoon near North Utah and Madison Streets in Baltimore. Police say they found a 40-year-old woman who'd been cut on her face around 2:30. Her injuries are not life-threatening. Investigators say the victim and another woman were apparently arguing at a bus stop. They say when the victim tried to get on a bus, the suspect cut her from behind and ran. A man continues to question his $1,800 water bill from Baltimore City 2 weeks after Fox 45 News first brought you this story.
They just told me go fix a leak. So I said, I don't have any leaks. Here's the plumbing reports. How are you going to make me fix a leak that I don't have any of? It's not my use.
After our relentless reporting, today the city sent someone to check on his property for leaks. Fox 45's Jeff Abel explains what they found and why the homeowner still isn't satisfied.
This is where your water comes in.
Outside Akiva Kent's Pikesville home this morning, city crews were inspecting the water line and confirming what he already knew.
And lo and behold, I got the paper from this morning. We did everything. You have no leaks. You have no water line leaks. Hello, I know that already.
Kent panicked last August when his water bill, which normally hovers around $40 a month, had jumped to more than $300. And the sky-high bills kept coming, topping almost $1,800 over the next 6 months.
$1,800 is like a lot of money for me. Oh, you have a water leak. Unless you fix it, it's your fault. Go pay the bill.
You should have a trickle, then it should stop.
So Kent hired not one, but two private plumbing companies who inspected every water line and water source in the home, and both came to the same conclusion. There are no leaks. One company noted there must be a malfunction with the city's water meter. but the findings made little difference to the city.
They don't want to listen to anything.
So after 6 months of an exhaustive attempt to prove that the city had issued faulty water bills, this morning's inspection ended with the findings there are no leaks. However, inspectors failed to sign the report.
They didn't say anything. I asked them, what are you going to do about my bill? We'll get back to you.
This evening, the Department of Public Works did get back to him. In an email, DPW officials insisted the city's meter was properly working and suggested that Kent had unknowingly used an excessive amount of water, writing it may be as simple as turning off a water hose or running a toilet. Nevertheless, you will receive an adjustment.
I'm feeling very frustrated.
For Akiva Kent, it's a hollow victory. His 6-month fight has left him drowning in frustration.
For me, experiencing this, I think that the best thing that could happen to DPW is to get privatized, okay, and not be a part of Baltimore city government.
Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
The water billing issue is the latest in a series of issues involving the Department of Public Works. A group of residents has now filed 2 lawsuits out against the department, arguing that scaling back the biweekly recycling pickup, which we've told you about, is a violation of the city's code. And according to the Maryland Department of the Environment, Baltimore City violated federal law by not warning the public within 24 hours of last September's E. coli outbreak in the water supply. Well, revving their engines for a good cause at the Autobahn Racecourse in Jessup. Tonight, the Lila Bean Foundation is celebrating the life of 12-year-old Max Pound, who died of brain cancer in January. Max was a fantastic youth go-kart driver, and tonight his friends and family are honoring him. Lila Bean's founder lost her daughter to brain cancer and is continuing her fight for a cure.
We started the foundation in honor of my daughter, but realizing the need for better treatment options. And over my 13 years in this work, I've seen far too many children die from this disease, and I want to change that.
More than 4,000 children are diagnosed with brain cancer every year. It is the deadliest form of cancer in children. Prescription medication is a part of most of our lives, or many of our lives, at least we can say, and we expect our caregivers to know what we're supposed to be taking and when. But as Spotlight on America's Lisa Fletcher reports, medication dispensing errors are more common than you might think and costing thousands of lives each year.
When 74-year-old Rosina Jackson went to a rehab facility to recover from a blood clot, she thought the worst was behind her. Little did she know that within weeks she'd be in an intensive care unit with a life-threatening condition caused by a mistake at the D.C. nursing home her family trusted.
They gave her someone else's medication.
And nobody noticed?
Nobody noticed.
How long did this go on for?
We don't know.
The family says it wasn't until Rosina complained about swelling in her throat that they examined what the facility had given her.
The medicine that they had sent her home with that belonged to someone else was stuck down in the middle of these.
Even more troubling, the medicine, with someone else's name on it, was the blood pressure drug lisinopril, to which Rosina is severely allergic. Her throat nearly swelled shut. To survive, doctors put her on a ventilator and into a medically induced coma for more than a week. Medication errors are not rare. A 2022 report estimates 7,000 to 9,000 people a year in the U.S. die from the mistakes, and hundreds of thousands more suffer adverse reactions. How likely is it that the number of medication errors is underreported?
Very likely. I think we're seeing the tip of the iceberg when we look at error reporting.
Rita Ju is the president of the Institute for Safe Medication Practices.
There is so many different systems that failed in order to lead to that medication errors.
And while hospitals are required to follow strict practices when giving medication, Ju says it's not the same for care facilities.
The regulations and the standards are not as tight in a nursing home, for example, or a skilled nursing facility. There is not as much requirements for the different steps of double checking to make sure that the right medication is getting to the patient.
We obtained nursing home inspection records for all facilities nationwide from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. and in February of 2023 alone found 9,829 facilities across the U.S. cited for more than 20,000 violations that could lead to medication errors. Illinois, Ohio, California, and Texas were the states with the most violations in these categories.
But you give me somebody else's medicine, that could kill me.
Mark Miller is the D.C. Ombudsman for long-term care facilities. He says errors like these are inexcusable.
I think a lot of facilities are experiencing a lot of problems right now because of the staffing. You know, it's just, it was bad before the pandemic. The pandemic, I think, exacerbated it. And now we're seeing the results of that.
Making it all the more critical, Miller says, for families to pay attention.
The message to families is, to the extent that you can, you need to be involved with the care and you need to monitor the care.
Go to SpotlightInvestigates.com, where you'll find resources, including a conversation with Miller about how to choose a facility, what to look for, what to ask, and his trick on getting a real view of how the place operates. For Spotlight on America, I'm Lisa Fletcher.
Still ahead, the power of sports on full display in Towson. One superfan's compelling bond with her favorite team in tonight's Maryland Moment. And a slew of GOP 2024 candidates speak at a National Rifle Association conference tonight. Their push for support in the wake of two mass shootings in recent weeks.
And warm temperatures will stick around heading into the weekend. We'll spend the weekend in the mid and actually upper 70s. But after that, I'm tracking a little cool down back into the 60s. I'll explain the reason why in just a couple of minutes on Fox 45 News at 10.